90% of enterprises are using AI in 2026, but almost none of them are actually making money from it. That's not my opinion. That's from an article published just last month on February 10th called The Billion-Dollar Blind Spot. Think about that. Nearly every major company is throwing money at AI, running pilots, buying tools, but the vast majority aren't seeing any real business impact. It's like the dot-com bubble all over again, but instead of just building websites, they're building AI models with no clear path to value. What exactly is going on here? Why are companies, even with big budgets and smart people, failing to turn all this AI hype into actual dollars? We're going to dig into the blind spots that are costing businesses billions and what savvy operators are doing differently. In 2026, nearly 90% of enterprises report using AI, yet most are failing to scale it beyond pilot projects into sustained business impact. That's a staggering number. On one hand, everyone's talking about AI. On the other, companies are pouring an estimated $35 billion annually into initiatives that never see the light of day. Asad Mansour, author of The Billion-Dollar Blind Spot, published on January 14, 2026, argues that this disconnect isn't about the tech itself, but about critical misconceptions derailing adoption. This isn't just about wasted money. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of what AI can do and, more importantly, how to integrate it. 2 years ago, people were asking if generative AI adoption was even real or just market excitement. Now, in 2026, we have an answer. It's real, but it's incredibly uneven. Taylor Sullivan, head of product and assessments, notes that while AI will be everywhere at work, its use won't be consistent. The problem, as Sullivan points out, isn't access to models or tools. It's a trust, accountability, and operating model problem. We're at a crucial inflection point. Big tech and governments are investing heavily. The media narrative is intense, yet approximately 80% of AI projects never even reach production. Scott Hogue, VP of Cybersecurity at Everforth ECS, even argues that companies risk ignoring critical plumbing technologies by over-focusing on the flashiest LLMs and chatbots. What does this billion-dollar blind spot mean for businesses and, more importantly, for you? We're going to break down why so many companies are getting this wrong and what it teaches us about building real value in an AI-driven world. 90% of enterprises are using AI in 2026, but almost none of them are actually making money from it. That's not my opinion. That's from an article published just last month on February 10th called The Billion-Dollar Blind Spot. Think about that. Nearly every major company is throwing money at AI, but it's mostly ending up in what you could call a billion-dollar blind spot. Asad Mansour, author of The Billion-Dollar Blind Spot, published on January 14, 2026, details how enterprises are committing an estimated $35 billion annually to AI initiatives. That's a staggering figure, but the reality on the ground is grim. Barry O'Reilly, in December 2025, highlighted an even more sobering statistic. 95% of organizations are seeing zero ROI from their generative AI investments. Zero. The initial question posed just 2 years ago, asking if generative AI adoption was real or just hype, has been answered with a far more measured reality in 2026. While big tech continues its heavy investment in AI infrastructure, pouring billions into chips and data centers, enterprises often remain stuck in pilot mode. They're playing around with LLMs and chatbots, but without the tangible results that move the needle on revenue or efficiency. We see AI everywhere at work, but as Taylor Sullivan, head of product and assessments, points out, it's a trust, accountability, and operating model problem, not an access problem. What this teaches us is that the failure isn't in the tech itself, but in the implementation, and that leads us directly to the fatal flaws. Why these projects fail? Approximately 80% of AI projects never reach production, failing to deliver tangible business value. That's a huge number, and it points to a deeper issue than just bad tech. Asad Mansour, in his January 14, 2026 article, Beyond the Hype, 4 critical misconceptions derailing enterprise AI adoption, argues that these failures aren't due to a lack of technological maturity. Instead, it's critical misconceptions and strategic and cognitive biases that are derailing enterprise AI adoption. It's almost like companies are building a beautiful facade without checking the foundation. Scott Hogue, VP of Cybersecurity at Everforth ECS, warned about this on May 20th, 2026, saying companies risk ignoring critical plumbing technologies by over-focusing on flashy AI like LLMs and chatbots. Think about it. Everyone wants the shiny new chatbot, but are they investing in the data infrastructure and security needed to make it truly useful and safe? Taylor Sullivan, head of product and assessments, takes this a step further. He points out that the core issue isn't access to AI models or tools at all. He calls it a trust, accountability, and operating model problem, stemming from how work is designed, governed, and led. This means the problem often lies not in the tech department, but in leadership itself. Boards are increasingly pressing for measurable outcomes directly linked to customer value, cost structure, risk, and durable revenue, moving beyond mere experimentation and demanding real results. This creates a huge gap for many companies, especially those who haven't updated their operating models. But this unevenness isn't just about whether companies are using AI. It's fundamentally about how they're integrating it. Taylor Sullivan, head of product and assessments at The Writer, challenged early predictions of widespread, uniform AI adoption, arguing that while AI will undeniably be everywhere at work, its application will be anything but consistent. She foresees significant hesitation and slow rollouts within certain divisions, particularly in legal and HR departments grappling with ethical implications, even as more agile teams like marketing and product development dive headfirst into sophisticated AI tools. In fact, The Writer's 2026 AI Adoption in the Enterprise Survey, conducted in partnership with Workplace Intelligence and surveying over 1,500 non-technical employees and C-suite executives across diverse industries, reveals persistent challenges despite a projected $250 billion global investment in AI this year. This marks the second year of tracking this critical demographic, confirming a significant shift. Companies are clearly moving from speculative AI experimentation to making critical business decisions, with AI already profoundly impacting workflows, customer interactions, and operational costs. Adam Mindler, CEO of the Mindler Group, underscored this in his June 22, 2026 article, Beyond the Sandbox: AI's New Mandate, emphasizing that the days of just playing around with AI are definitively over. Rex Briggs, Chief AI Officer of Claritas, reinforces this, stressing that AI is entering an operational phase, demanding tangible results and measurable ROI beyond initial pilots. For example, a global financial institution might pilot an AI-powered fraud detection system, achieving a 15% reduction in false positives, but then struggle when trying to integrate it seamlessly across legacy systems in multiple geographic regions, or when encountering highly nuanced, cross-border regulatory compliance issues that the AI wasn't initially trained for. This isn't primarily a technological hurdle. It's a deeply rooted trust, accountability, and operating model problem, stemming from how work is designed, governed, and led within the organization. And that brings us to the biggest roadblocks. But the real hurdle isn't technological. It's deeply strategic and cultural. Asad Mansour, in his April 27, 2026 article, Why AI Adoption Fails Without Cultural Alignment and Governance Support, specifically identifies strategic and cognitive biases as the primary culprits, not a lack of advanced AI. Think of it this way. Companies are often over-focusing on the sexy aspects of AI, like large language models and chatbots. Scott Hogue, VP of Cybersecurity at Everforth ECS, highlighted this risk on May 20, 2026, arguing that companies are potentially ignoring crucial plumbing technologies, the foundational infrastructure necessary for sustainable AI implementation. This overemphasis leads to what Taylor Sullivan, head of product and assessments at The Writer, calls a fundamental trust, accountability, and operating model problem. It's not about the tools, but how organizations structure work, lead, and govern. Instead of integrating AI into core business processes, Many companies get stuck in perpetual pilot mode, where AI projects exist in isolation, preventing true value creation. For example, a company might build a fantastic chatbot for customer service, but if it's not integrated with the core CRM or knowledge base, it quickly becomes a frustration rather than a solution. This lack of clear governance and leadership in AI initiatives means projects struggle to scale beyond these isolated experiments. What this teaches us is that the problem isn't the AI itself, but how we choose to wield it, which sets the stage for a critical year ahead. So what's next? Barry O'Reilly, in his incisive December 9, 2025 publication, argues that 2026 is unequivocally shaping up to be a true year of reckoning for AI adoption. The era of simply throwing capital at shiny new AI tools, treating them as abstract innovations, is rapidly ending. Frankly, boards of directors, exemplified by firms like Vanguard and BlackRock, are demanding concrete, measurable outcomes. They want to see AI directly linked to enhanced customer value, perhaps a 15% uplift in customer satisfaction scores as seen in early adopters like Salesforce, along with demonstrable improvements in cost structure, such as a 10% reduction in operational expenditures at companies like FedEx. Crucially, they're demanding reduced enterprise risk and the generation of durable, predictable revenue streams. No more AI experimentation for its own sake, funded by the promise of future magic. This profound shift means companies must move beyond treating AI as just another collection of siloed tools or a departmental curiosity. As Taylor Sullivan, a leading voice in organizational design, suggests, it requires a fundamental transformation of work design, governance models, and leadership paradigms across the entire organization. Consider this stark reality. If nearly 90% of enterprises report using AI in some capacity, yet the vast majority are failing to scale it beyond initial pilot projects, often stuck at the proof-of-concept stage, that represents a massive, systemic disconnect. We're talking about an estimated $35 billion annually committed to AI initiatives that are largely not delivering tangible, sustained business value. The critical challenge now is converting that massive investment, much like what's been poured into failed digital transformations of the past, into real, sustained business impact. As Adam Mindler highlighted on June 22, 2026, executives are no longer contemplating AI's potential. They're facing critical business decisions about AI's concrete role, demanding a strategic pivot from mere pilot to full-scale production with clearly articulated and measured value. This isn't about if companies will leverage AI, but how they will strategically implement it to fundamentally transform their bottom line and secure a competitive advantage. What this all means is that 2026 isn't just another year for incremental tech upgrades. It's the year where the rubber meets the road for AI. The real bottleneck isn't the technology itself, or even access to advanced models. It's the strategic and cultural blind spots within organizations, the failure to move past expensive pilots and integrate AI, where it actually generates measurable, scalable business value and a clear ROI. It's about fundamental shifts in how work is designed, governed, and led, not just adding another tool to the stack. Have you ever seen a brilliant AI pilot project internally that just died? What were the core reasons it didn't scale? Drop your stories and insights in the comments below. If you're keen on dissecting the real mechanics of tech and business, hit that subscribe button. And if you like this deep dive into AI adoption challenges, then my breakdown of how companies are finally integrating AI into their core operations to drive genuine ROI is exactly the next thing you should watch.